They heard it before they saw it. A low, heavy rumble, like thunder rolling beneath the earth. German soldiers looked up from their trenches, squinting through the mist. The ground itself seemed to tremble. One soldier whispered, "Artillery?" Another shook his head. "No, something else." Through the fog came silhouettes, hulking, metallic, moving slow but unstoppable. It wasn't the panzers they knew. It was something bigger, something alien, American tanks. And for the first time, many of them felt something they hadn't felt since the start of the war. Fear. The first reports reached headquarters in the Ardennes. Units spoke of steel beasts that refused to die. Machine guns rattled against their armor. Shells glanced off their turrets. The name spread quickly through the ranks, Sherman. Corporal Dietrich, only 23, wrote in his diary, "We fired everything we had. They kept coming like ghosts made of metal." At first, they laughed at the idea that the Americans could build better tanks. German propaganda had always called the enemy weak, industrial but soulless. Yet, standing there, staring at the column of Shermans crawling over the hills, those lies melted faster than the snow. In a frozen trench, a small group of soldiers huddled around a sputtering lamp. Their uniforms were torn, their hands black with soot. Sergeant Weber, a veteran from the Eastern Front, broke the silence. "The Russians had numbers," he said, "but these Americans, they have machines." A young recruit, Hans, frowned. "But we have tigers. One tiger can destroy 10 Shermans." Weber stared at him, tired, hollow-eyed. "That's what they told us, but tell me, boy, where are your 10 shells when your fuel's gone? Where's your tiger when the sky is full of enemy planes?" No one answered. Outside, the sound of engines roared again. The snow turned black with oil and smoke. German panzers lay twisted beside smoldering American tanks, a graveyard of steel. Men screamed for medics, shells whistled, and the air stank of burned rubber. Private Miller crawled through the mud, dragging his wounded friend. "They're everywhere," he shouted. "They never stop." Above them, American thunderbolts strafed the road. The once proud German divisions, the same that had crushed France in weeks, were now crawling, hiding, running. That night, Miller wrote in a blood-stained notebook, "I used to think our army was invincible, but today I saw what happens when a lie meets reality." Days later, as the front collapsed, hundreds of German soldiers were captured. Cold, hungry, they sat in muddy fields surrounded by barbed wire. Across from them, American tanks rolled by. Massive, silent, indifferent. One soldier muttered, "So this is what defeat looks like." Another older one replied, "No, this is what truth looks like." For years, they had been told that Germany had the best of everything. The best tanks, the best men, the best destiny. But the truth stood there, painted in olive drab, engines purring, flags waving. That night, near a small fire, they began to speak freely for the first time. No officers, no Gestapo, no orders. Just men broken, tired, defeated, Sergeant Weber said quietly. "The Americans don't fight like we do. They fight like they already know they'll win." Hans, the young recruit, stared at the flames. "They have food, cigarettes, music. They smile. We haven't smiled in years." Another added, "They build tanks like we build excuses." And laughter broke through the silence. Bitter, exhausted laughter. Among the captured soldiers, a few still wrote letters. Some to mothers who would never read them. Some to wives who believed in victory. One wrote, "They told us we were protecting Europe, but we were only protecting a dream, one that was never ours." Another wrote, "The first time I saw an American tank, I didn't feel hate. I felt envy. They had more than steel, they had hope." Those letters were found months later in abandoned camps, unsent, unread, but they carried the same message. The soldiers had seen the truth too late. By spring 1945, the Western Front was gone. German cities burned under Allied bombs. Tanks rolled through towns that once cheered for Hitler. Weber stood at the edge of a ruined bridge as Shermans crossed it. He didn't raise his weapon, he just watched. "We used to call them invaders," he said to Hans. "But maybe they're here to free us, from ourselves." Hans didn't answer. He looked at the tanks, then at the flag above them. And for the first time, he realized the war wasn't just lost. It had been lost long before it began. Months later, after the surrender, those same soldiers were scattered in POW camps. Some in France, some in America, They worked farms, repaired roads, or just stared at the horizon. One American guard once asked a German prisoner, "What did you think when you saw our tanks?" The German smiled faintly and said, "We thought God had chosen your side." Years passed. Many of those soldiers never spoke of the war again, but in their diaries, hidden from shame, their words remained. One wrote, "The Americans didn't defeat us because they had better tanks. They defeated us because they never worshipped one man." Another said, "We built our tanks with arrogance. They built theirs with purpose." And one final entry written decades later read, "When I first saw an American tank, I saw not a machine, but the truth. It moved slower than our Tigers. But it never stopped." What did German soldiers truly say when they first saw American tanks? They didn't call them monsters. They didn't call them heroes. They called them real. Because in that moment they realized the war they were fighting was already over, and the world they had been promised was only smoke. The tanks rolled forward. The Reich crumbled behind, and history moved on, leaving only the echoes of engines and the whispers of men who finally understood. Power ends where truth begins.